Hi everyone, welcome to our course, Unlocking Prosperity, Mastering Cash Flow for Business Growth. And basically our goal today is to empower your entrepreneurial journey with proven strategies for managing cash flow. In today's topic, we're going to focus exclusively on increasing inbound cash flow. And the reason we focus here is if you don't have consistent, reliable inbound cash, you don't have a business. So we're going to give you the tools, the foundation, and this is a short presentation. It's not meant to be exhaustive. It's not meant to teach everything. In this presentation, my goal is to show you why these things are important and give you some steps you can take today to start improving your inbound cash flow. So first and foremost, our objective is not to teach you everything, but to share some ideas that you can take away and implement. At the end of this, if you're interested, we will extend an invitation. We have a more detailed course where we actually take all of these topics and we share exactly detailed step-by-step instructions. We also have a workshop where we help you practice this with us, but for today we're just going to teach you at a high level why this stuff is important, and as I said, give you some ideas. So the number one thing I will say is that the world will share that there is a 96% failure rate in business over 10 years. Our goal is to reverse that, or at least do some positive impact. So today I'm going to introduce this. We're going to talk about the importance of cash flow management. I'll share some core strategies. We have 3 that we'll share today. We'll do a little bit of a deep dive into each strategy, showing you pros and cons, strengths, weaknesses, and some resources. And we'll talk about a bulletproof business blueprint. And in our live sessions, we open this up for Q&A. Today, we're going to say if you want to ask any questions, just put them in the comments below, and then we'll talk about the next steps. As I said, if you're with us till the end, there's no catch, there's no trick. You don't have to stay to the end. I won't be offended. If you are with us to the end, I'll extend an invitation and let you know how you can go deeper with us. So first, I want to share why we care. Basically, in Cash Flow Club, we as certified cash flow consultants have seen time and time again that the vast majority of businesses that fail because they didn't actively manage their cash flow. So in our world, we teach our clients how to manage their cash flow, and we want it to be managed with intention so that it has a positive impact on the business. And really, truly, our goal is really simple. We want to stack the odds for our clients. Now, the reason we care so much is that 96% of businesses failing is unacceptable. That is a terrible statistic. There is no endeavor in the history of Earth where humanity would say 4% success rate. Great, let's do that and let's keep doing it. The reality is that is not inevitable. The odds are not stacked against you by default. So we're here to help you understand the pieces so that you can do what you do best, which is the thing that your business is about. Our job is to help you understand how to optimize the business around the product or service you offer. Now, because it's awkward and clumsy, I am going to use the term product. That covers everything: product, services, apps, whatever it is. Your business provides a product to a group. That is your market. So we're going to talk about the product and the market over and over in our detailed courses, and we'll talk a little bit about it here. But people always say, Jeff, why should I care about this course? Why should I watch this video? And the reality is, I don't know. And I don't say that flippantly, but the reality is you have a specific reason you're going to want to watch this. So maybe you're looking at, how do I grow my business? I want some growth. How do I make my business more stable? How do I have more impact? How do I have more security? How do I have more freedom? The answer is we cover all of the above. So if any of these are important to you, jump on in, because hopefully we'll give you something that will add value to you in the process. Now, first and foremost, we need to talk about Cash Flow Club. And this is not a hard sales pitch. I'm not going to spend the rest of our time together pitching you on Cash Flow Club. The reason I share this is that most small businesses, most medium, large businesses even, they don't actively manage their cash flow. I would hazard a guess, and this is just a guess, I haven't studied every company on the planet, but I would bet in my heart less than 10% of small businesses or businesses in general, unless you're publicly traded, I would bet that less than 10% actively, intentionally manage their cash flow. Now, we created Cash Flow Club because we want to shine a light, and our goal is to help our clients build thriving businesses. And we believe there's three core areas where you have to actively, proactively manage your cash flow so that you have a thriving business. As I said right at the beginning, inbound is, in my opinion, one of the most important, because if you don't have inbound, nothing else matters. You're not in business long enough to figure out you have other problems. So we like to solve inbound first. And today we're focusing on inbound and specifically increasing inbound cash flow. We'll talk about what that looks like in more detail. The second option is once you've started to get cash coming in, you need to make sure the cash is coming in fast. So we want to show you how to invoice faster. Not today's topic, but this is something we cover in detail. And whether you work with us or not, I would always encourage you to find ways to remove friction so that you can get paid faster. And then once we've got the revenues and we've got the speed, then we want to have systems in place to make sure we're getting consistent revenue over time. I love membership programs, continuity programs, ways to get people to pay you more often and faster. Now, down the road, once we've covered and settled on inbound cash, we look at the outbound. So inbound is about the revenue cycle. Outbound is about the expense cycle. And in this, we want to look at ways to decrease the outbound cash, ways to decelerate the cash going out, and of course, budgets and processes and forecasts to optimize our expense cycle. And only once we have revenue and expenses sorted, then we start to look at sort of the management of your cash. And we'll talk about short-term saving, having that rainy day fund to cover 2 to 3 months of overhead just in case. We'll talk about matching the right debt to the right assets so that you're borrowing appropriately and you're actually borrowing to grow the business, not borrowing to handcuff or hamper the business. And then once we've got all of that, then we talk about investing. I find it interesting. There are a lot of people out there who want to go straight to investing. If you're just starting out, investing is something very distant to worry about, like I said, until you've got inbound and outbound covered. So we are a collective. We're a bunch of accountants, former accountants, bookkeepers, business coaches. We looked at this from every angle. And these are the 9 core areas or categories that we believe if you build all of these out, you will by default build a thriving business with intention. So today I'm going to focus on increasing inbound cash. I just wanted you to know big picture what else we cover. So I've already said it, but if you don't have cash coming in, you don't have a business. At the very best, you have a big hungry elephant that's going to consume your life savings. At the very worst, you have something that is going to cost you your livelihood, your assets, and cripple you. So we want to focus on inbound cash, and as long as we feed the machine, it will continue to grow and thrive. So if you're further along in business, maybe you're okay with the inbound cash flow, you can skip to outbound, but my advice is always work in order. Make sure something is polished and proven and scalable, then move on to the next thing. And that's what we do in Cash Flow Club. We're all about fixing one thing first, and once we know it's working well, then we go on to the next thing. And we want to build on success. And in my humble opinion, um, if you have cash coming in, you can survive to figure other things out. But if you don't have cash coming in, you're always running from the hungry wolves. So we're going to talk today about raising capital, acquiring new clients, and developing new products. And these three areas, in my humble opinion, too many people skip these steps and then they end up trying to fix problems down the road. So my goal for you is you walk away today with clarity as to which of these strategies work for you and when and why, and to give you some options for each and some resources. So let's talk about raising capital. And the reality is, raising capital can be one of two things. Number one, you can be looking at equity investors, or number two, you could be looking at debt. Most people in the tech space, they want to talk about raising capital in the form of equity. The reality is it's kind of hard to get debt unless you have an excellent credit rating or you've got some backing in the first place. Banks love to lend you money when you don't need it. They hate lending it when you do need it. So for today, I'm going to talk predominantly about getting funding through your network and through shareholders. One little caveat: do not raise capital without help. The reason I say that is every jurisdiction, it seems, has different laws about who can raise capital, how they can go about raising it. You get into securities laws. You do not want to run afoul of securities regulators. Trust me. So find a good lawyer or a good accountant who has worked with a startup in your industry, in your geography, and pay them well for their advice and follow it. So the thing about capital, the big pro to it is it can be an immediate financial boost from a third party. Like I said, that might be investors, institutional investors, friends and family, or bank. But it's nice because you can deposit a nice big check and you can worry about building the business while you have that money in the bank. And one of the other advantages of capital raising is that you can get advantages. Having a good investor can give you access to mentorship, partnerships, and their network. So you want to look at the right fit. And by the way, a lot of people talk about angel investors and venture capital funds, venture equity. Um, you want a lawyer that can review agreements, give you all the advice you need, because you don't want to rely on them. You might have possible loss of control, dilution of ownership. I've seen people who took whatever investment they could find and they ended up giving away more than half or a controlling interest in their company, and ultimately they were forced out. So there can be some pros to this, but also if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make mistakes, and these mistakes can be huge. So you need to understand, you bring in third-party investors. They're going to want a say in how the business is run. They're going to want to set expectations, and they're going to make you live up to them. And if you're new to fundraising, I know a lot of people who jump right in, they're very enthusiastic. I've seen people who literally spend more time raising capital than they do running their business. I'm personally of the opinion if you can get revenue up quickly, and that'll help you get capital. Whereas if you focus on capital and then hope for revenue, you're going to struggle for capital and revenue. So you want to be prepared. Due diligence will take as long as it takes. No investor is going to give you money without doing a little bit of homework. They are going to probe you and your company, so be prepared for that. So that is raising capital. And I'm going to share some of the resources. Usually you're going to be required to have some form of financial statements and a business plan. Not always, but usually. If you're pre-revenue, they're looking at forecasts and projections. You might be required to have an audit. You might need a very, well, whether you need it or not, you should have a very compelling pitch deck. You should be able to share, here's my vision, here's my passion, here's why I do what I do. Get the help you need to have somebody professionally prepare a pitch deck, because it'll be the difference between being funded and not. And you're going to need a strong management team. They're looking at your business plan. How likely are you to be able to execute? How certain are they that you're going to succeed? And by the way, if you're cheap out and you don't have a good legal advisor and accounting advisor, it will cost you in the long run. So you want to make sure that you've got the right people on board. And I'm not saying pay them a whole bunch of money and hope for the best. I'm saying have them ready so that when you're ready, they're able to do what they need to do. And always, in my humble opinion, take a little bit of time, sit them down, pay them for an initial consultation, and say, okay, what do I need to do? When do I need to do it? How much is this going to cost me to get started? I'm going to share some questions you can ask, but it's always cheaper and easier to do something right the first time than it is to try to fix it after the fact. And I've seen horror stories where companies blew apart. Founding partners decided they couldn't stand the sight of one another. Trying to unravel a company when the two parties are not agreeing, and hopefully it's only just two, is very difficult. You want to make sure all of your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed up front. And I would say that raising capital is not for the faint of heart. You need to be prepared to pitch, and you need to be really passionate about what you do, because your potential investors will judge you for that. Now, I've seen many, many instances, and for the record, I personally don't work in the capital raising space. I'm not here as an expert. I'm just here to share what I've seen. And, the perfect scenario, I've seen companies where they've just gone out, they created an amazing pitch deck, they created amazing forecast, they had a great business plan, and they were able to get the funding they needed. In one case, it was absolutely fantastic. They found an institutional investor that funded them for 2 years. They literally gave them all the money they needed for product redevelopment, for research, for marketing, for sales. It was the best day of, I talked to the founder, it was the best day of his life. Now, he had 2 years. He was successful in the end because he had lots of room to breathe. It looked like an overnight success, but he also spent 10 years of his life chasing capital before he got that 2-year funding. So I want you to know that funding is not one and done. It is a process, and it happens over time. So you want to look at the terms, you want to look at the investor, and believe it or not, I firmly believe if you're looking for capital, focus on people who get your vision and who have similar values to you. And by the way, that's hard to do with institutional investors, but usually if you find the right investors, it will have a huge impact on your chances of success. Because there are some that purely invest to invest. There are others who invest and they bring mentorship and partnerships. Personally, I'd rather have somebody who brings mentorship and partnership than just a straight big novelty check, and it's up to me to figure out how to grow the business on my own. And that's the other thing. As I've met many, many, many successful founders, I've met many that didn't succeed. The number one thing is those who succeeded sought help, got advice, and followed it. Those who didn't thought they knew everything, or they were ashamed to admit they didn't know everything. They struggled and they failed on their own. Those who succeeded as part of a team. So if you're truly hell-bent on being a soloist, my advice to you is focus on revenue, not capital. So if you're looking and you want to hire an expert, these are just generic questions. You can tailor them, but I would never hire an expert without at least asking these, probably more. Again, you need to do your due diligence to make sure they're the right expert for your business. So, first question is, what is your track record with companies in my industry? Beware of any expert who says, I've never done it, but I'll figure it out. They're going to learn on your dime. You don't want that. Second, how do you value companies, and what metrics do you focus on? You want to get a sense of what they value, how they value, and that'll tell you a little bit about how they can help you and where they're going to help you. If they can't provide references from past clients, I'd be very nervous. I know a lot of professionals, they're shy about giving testimonials from clients, but the good ones have it and will share. Now, it's not a deal breaker if they don't have references, but to me, that's a bit of a red flag. Now, the next question is about how they get paid, and beware of anyone who charges a big fee up front. Personally, I like ones that bill based on stages or achievements or milestones. Some will actually, they'll be so confident they can help you, they charge based on the outcome of the deal. And you want to understand how they negotiate with their investors, how they'll negotiate with you. And the last question, I'm suggesting you can come up with more, is how do you support your companies after investment, post investment? So are they still around and they'll help you with the next year first quarterly earnings, or is it they just help with the transaction and they're gone? I leave it to you which you prefer. Me personally, I want somebody that's going to be around long term rather than just in it for the transaction and then gone. Now, in the next section, we are going to talk about acquiring new clients. And this is really, truly traditional business development. It's where people grow. But basically, we want to be able to scale by reaching new markets. Now, the thing is, compared to offering new products to existing clients, acquiring new clients is a little slower, a little bit more expensive, and it takes a little more detail. So basically what we're looking at is, of the three ways you can increase your inbound cash flow, acquiring new clients is a critical skill. If you don't know how to acquire new clients, your business is always going to be struggling. So you do need to understand how to acquire new clients. As I said, it's a little bit more patience, a little bit more effort, a little bit more expense. But if you get this part right, your business will always be in your control. You can find ways to improve it. And this is where you can become scalable. A lot of people have different opinions. My personal opinion, I like to target one industry in one geography, and once I've nailed that industry in that geography, then I take that industry knowledge to other geographies. Now that might not be possible. Maybe you're a traditional bricks and mortar business. In that case, absolutely crush one industry in your geography. And then if you still need more revenue, go after a second industry, maybe a third. Personally, unless you're looking for world domination, I'd never go beyond a third market niche because you just get busy building niche materials and things like that. So being able to acquire new clients gives us a sense of power, a sense of control. We're in control of our revenue growth, and we can diversify as needed. As I said, the better you get at acquiring new clients, you're going to have to get better at marketing. And the better you get at marketing, the better you have to get at sales. The better you get at sales, the better you have to get at marketing. There are other ways. I'm actually personally a fan of relationship-based marketing, earning referrals, things like that. Those are all things we discuss in Cash Flow Club because there's no right answer. There's no one size fits all. Some people say, oh, the only way to grow is by doing TikTok videos, or you need to do Facebook ads or Google ads or LinkedIn ads, or you need to go to Chamber of Commerce events. There is no such thing as one size fits all. What we suggest in Cash Flow Club is find the size, the style that works for you and your business, and then focus on that. And that I think is really powerful. And what we suggest is you figure out one rock solid way to grow your business and acquire new clients, test it, perfect it. Once you've done that, then you start a second, then a third. You never want just one way to get new clients. You always want to back up in case things change. So the key here, and we talked a little bit about who your market is. I use the term perfect prospect persona. We need to understand exactly who our customer is and exactly what their needs are. And that's the beautiful thing. The better you get at understanding the pain points of your client or your customer, the better you can get at growing your business, because in the end, people buy things that transform their life. They want to know their life is better for having worked with you. So the more clearly you can define the problem, the more clearly you can identify who they are and what they need, the faster they'll come to you. So I do like acquiring new clients. I just want you to know this is a marathon, not a sprint. So you need to be prepared to do the work. Now, when it comes to acquiring new clients, I strongly recommend, and in our detailed courses, we have lists of books, we have lists of experts, but at the very, very minimum, you should have a marketing expert. And this marketing expert should know your industry, they should know what you do, and they should understand your business model. If they don't, and they say, oh, don't worry, I'll figure it out, again, you're going to train them on your dime. Now, the next one, and what I see a lot of businesses struggling, usually it's because the founder is usually in charge of marketing and sales. The reality is you don't have a scalable business until you've offloaded marketing and sales from your plate. Now, I recognize that when you're first starting out, maybe money is tight and you have to do it, but the reality is you need to do what you do best, which is run your company. You need to be able to let the experts do what they do best, which is help you grow your company. Usually, and again, ask the right questions, ask a lot of questions. The right expert will help you grow much faster than if you tried it on your own. And full disclosure, I've been that guy. I ran an accounting practice. I thought, well, I know my accounting business. Who better than me to market it? Who better than me to do sales? I struggled for a while because I was taught that if you build it, they will come. If you put your shingle out and say, hey world, I'm an accountant, I was taught that people would come running to you. The reality was I said, hey world, I got my shingle out, I'm an accountant, and crickets. I realized very quickly that I had to learn, I had to get better at it. So I learned a lot about social media, I learned a lot about sales, and really truly that was a great lesson in life. I don't regret any of it, but it almost led to burnout because the better I got at marketing, the better had to get at sales, vice versa. And sooner or later, I was spending more time on marketing and sales than I was on accounting. And for a business of accounting, that's a bad combination. And again, one of the things we teach in everything we do is that if you don't have your perfect prospect persona, if you don't know exactly who you serve, you're going to waste a lot of time, energy, attention, and money on marketing and sales. Now, a perfect prospect persona, that is something we do with all of our clients up front. You may have multiple. Our encouragement is start with one. Figure out exactly everything you need to know about that one. Get really clear on who they are. Get really clear on how you can help them. And I say fall in love with your prospect. Figure out everything you can about what keeps them awake at night, how they have pain, what are their fears, what are their dreads, what are their wants, what are their aspirations. And basically, we're looking to find ways we can add value to them. And really, truly, I don't want to over exaggerate this, but the reality is people come up and say, I serve everyone. And I can tell you with sincerity, if you truly believe you serve everyone, you serve no one. Literally, only the biggest brands with the biggest brand budgets on the planet serve everyone, and even they don't serve everyone. If you look at Walmart, for example, massive box store, they serve a very targeted demographic. I'm going to guess that a lot of affluent people aren't streaming through Walmart looking for a cheap TV. They're probably buying it from a high-end store that delivers and sets up. So the more clear you can be on your perfect prospect persona, the better all of your other results. And by the way, a lot of people say, well, I serve men or I serve women. You need to narrow it down. There's a very different need in the male market or female for people who are, 20 to 30 versus 30 to 40, etc. And again, if you just serve binary male or female, you're going to alienate people who are non-binary. So be really clear on who your prospect is and keep asking until you get to the point it's one person and one person only. I like to create a picture of who my prospect is. I use ChatGPT to create an image of them, and basically I give it a name, and then we talk about when we're doing something, we put the person's name in it, and literally we all know who that person is. We know their demographics, we know how they think, we know what they believe, we know what their problems are. I promise you that is the single biggest thing you can do for your business. If you don't have that, don't waste any time and energy on marketing, because if you don't know who you're targeting, don't expect the world to figure it out for you. And by the way, here's a little tip. If a marketing or sales expert doesn't ask you who you serve, fire them or don't hire them. Because a lot of people will take your money and say, yeah, I can reach, they'll let the algorithms determine your targeting. You want to know that up front before you spend a dime. And if they don't care about it, let me tell you, they're there to make money off of you, not to help you. So there are a lot of examples in my world, and really, truly, I think that the favorite one I would share is years and years ago, I worked with a professional service firm in a smallish community. The community was about 100,000. Basically, they had a whole bunch of national large competitors. There was 4 or 5 large firms, and then they were kind of, to put it bluntly, the biggest of the small. And they always got the second class clients. They got the discards from the big firms. And what they realized was that they were getting a lot of people who left the big firms because of lack of communication and lack of understanding of what was going on. So what this firm did, and this was a very specific, very targeted approach, they created a 3 workshop series that they offered for free to all of their strategic partners. So they invited banks, credit unions, business coaches, business brokers. They invited all of their professional contacts. They invited their favorite clients, and they invited everybody to bring a friend. And it was absolutely fascinating because they'd been stuck just under $1 million a year in total revenue, and they couldn't break that number no matter what. And in the first year, they did 3 workshops. They doubled their revenue to just under 2 million in a year. Now, I love sharing this example, not because I think it's attainable for everybody. They made a commitment. They put all their effort into it. They probably spent, a few hundred hours getting this, but in the end, they doubled their professional service firm. They were ecstatic. Now, they decided, full disclosure, year 2, we're going to focus on the next strategy, which is new products to existing clients. But believe it or not, the same strategy worked. They continued to offer workshops. So I have seen a lot of crazy examples of existing businesses with existing clients running workshops and bringing in extra clients and growing. This is the workshop strategy requires you to have a bit of a network and have some connections. If you don't have any connections, then you're probably looking at doing speaking events at Chamber of Commerce events, or, you know, basically figure out where your perfect prospect persona hangs out and put your information in front of them where they are. So that's just a little bit of an example. Let's move on to questions you should ask if you're looking to hire somebody and they're going to help you with acquiring new clients. The number one question I have is, what strategies have you implemented successfully in similar markets? I once worked with a digital marketing agency, and their specialty was fitness facilities. And they came to an accountant and said, yeah, we can do that. Whatever, it's digital marketing. Whatever works for fitness will work for you. Nope. So you want people who have experience in your industry. If they don't have experience, they should expect to get paid less or paid based on results, not based on time. Now, if they can't answer how do you measure the effectiveness of client acquisition campaigns, don't work with them. If they don't follow metrics, if they don't check their math, if they're not reporting to you, how do you know they succeeded? And a lot of them will say, oh, we measure our results based on number of clicks or likes or engagement. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to feed my kids on likes and engagement, so ask them how that generates cash. I don't care about good feels. I'm not worried about building a brand or a reputation. I'm worried about paying my bills. So how does their work directly attribute to cash in the bank? Now, the next question is, can you customize your approach based on my specific business needs? If they can't, again, that's a cautionary thing. If they don't understand the question, be afraid. Now, the next question, what is your experience with budget management for marketing campaigns? I want you all to understand there are thousands and thousands and thousands upon experts out there who will teach young aspiring experts how to spend your money. They're not teaching them how to manage your money, they're teaching them how to manage the spend. So they tend to focus on, managing the costs per click. They focus on things that aren't as important as what's the outcome. So in marketing, here's a rule of thumb for you. If you spend $1 on marketing, it should always bring back at least 10. So your little dollar goes out into the world of marketing, and as a rule of thumb, if it doesn't bring 10 friends back to you or send 10 friends back to you, you wasted that dollar. So somebody should be able to give you at least that return on investment so that you know what you're going to get for what you spent. And this comes into, how do you ensure a high return on investment on client acquisition efforts? If they can't answer return on investment, run for the hills, because they're clearly interested in taking your money, not growing your business. And you are, in fact, a business, so you have to make decisions based on return on investment. Now, let's jump into developing new products. And this, in my humble opinion, is my favorite area. And the reason it's my favorite is it allows us to differentiate ourselves in the market. It allows us to find new ways to serve our existing customers. And depending on the statistics you read or hear, it costs up to 7 times as much to acquire a new client as it does to get an existing client to spend more money. So if you're looking for speed, ease, results, developing new products is by far one of the best. Now, to be clear, when I'm talking about new products, I am not talking about building the next widget, building a better mousetrap. I'm talking about educational products, membership programs, simple things that you can add on to what you already do to add more value. So as an example, maybe you are a paint supply store and you want to attract the trades that, the painters. You can do things like have workshops on, sharing new paint materials, new paint innovations. The workshop itself can become a product. Maybe you can create a workbook, maybe you can create a business plan. There are things that we can do. If we're an expert at something, we can productize that expertise so that people know what to do. For example, checklists, templates, things like that. And what this does is it makes it easier for your customers to spend more money with you, and it makes it easier for them to bring their friends. So what I like is a customer or client will stay with you until they have a problem you don't solve. And if you don't solve the problem and they think you should, they will go elsewhere. So we want to solve as many problems as we can for our clients so that they stick around. So, for example, if you're a car dealership, most car dealerships provide financing, because in the old days, you'd go find your car, then you go to your bank, and people maybe went to the bank and didn't come back to the dealership because they found a better car, better price. You want to bring in that, you want to sell the accessories, you want to solve all of the problems that your client has. Another example, somebody goes to a store to pick up a puppy, whether it's a breeder or a store or a vet, you go, or adoption clinic, you go get the puppy, then it's like, oh, now I have to go get food, leash, toys, whatever, bedding. It's easier if they can get all of that in one place. And really, truly, I'm not telling you to spend millions on R&D. I'm not telling you to look for market acceptance. If you already have existing clients, sit down with them and say, what else do you wish we did for you? How else can we make your life easier? And if you focus on smaller educational products, we're not talking millions of dollars in revenue, but we're talking about how do you build, enough consistent new product revenue to cover your overhead and build up a surplus. And I think we've gone from, back in the day, cars evolved very slowly. Now people want rapid change. Always be looking at how could we make this better. A friend of mine said it very well. He told me that his job is to absorb complexity. And I love that phrase. And the way I see it is, we as the business owner, we should be walking around with a little piece of sandpaper and making sure we buff out any rough edges on our service offering. Any gaps, we want to bridge them. And what I love about educational content, it's easy to do. If you sell, appliances, for example, you could create let's say you sell washers for clothing. You could sell a guide or give a guide or something like that, probably a bit of both, a guide on how to remove stains, or I don't know, a video series on how to maintain the machine. Here's the things you can fix on your own. Here's the things you should never touch. Think about the rough edges that frustrate your customer, because every rough edge is a potential breaking point where you part ways. So it is in your best interest to figure out every rough edge and smooth the ones that matter the most. You might get to the point, Pareto principle, there's some little rough edges that nobody cares about that much. But the reality is, if you can find ways to retain and get your existing clients to pay more, you will have a better, more reliable, scalable business, and that'll impact your exit if you ever decide to sell. So at least you want to make sure your customers are happy and they keep coming back, and more importantly, they keep bringing their friends. Clients or customers that refer others are more likely to stay with you longer, pay you more money, value what you do, appreciate you more, and bring more friends. And clients acquired through referral are also more likely to do all of those wonderful things. So we want to develop relationships. If you look at the best brands on the planet, I would argue that two of the best brands, just based on fanaticism of their customers, is the Apple technology company. If you look at it, there are diehard people who line up overnight to get the latest iPhone, iPad, iPod, whatever Apple sells. they've got to have it. So you want those raving fans. The other brand I think is impressive is Harley Davidson. You know, they don't sell motorcycles, they sell a lifestyle, they sell independence and freedom, a certain attitude. But if you think about it, they're literally one of the very few brands I can think of off the top of my head where people pay to wear their clothing and brand themselves with tattoos. People get Harley Davidson tattoos. I'm not saying you want to have them get Joe's accounting tattoos, but you want them to be raving fans where they identify as part of your community. Now, this is important. Never ever try to develop new products in a vacuum. You always want to have client feedback. In the old days, they did focus groups and they did analysis. I like surveys. I like having, just pick up the phone and say, hey, we're looking at this. We want to improve this. Would you give us feedback? And reward them. If they give you feedback, give them a gift card. But really, truly ask what they would love to see in a new product. Now, there is a very old Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson had a long lost brother who worked for a motor company in Motown, and they brought Homer in as a feedback person, and they designed the car of Homer's dreams, which in the end, spoiler alert, didn't sell because it was a big colossal beast with features that nobody wanted. You don't want to base everything on one person. You want to have feedback across. Whatever you have, you need an R&D team, somebody who's in charge of research and development, and they're able to look at things and make decisions. I love building decision matrices. I love, doing surveys, sending out prototypes, having examples. You can't beat having a dedicated person who's in charge. And sometimes this is the founder, sometimes it's a team. And again, market testing doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be complicated. It could be, just sending out prototypes, asking people for feedback, and have a product development process. I use project management tools, and basically everything is, first of all, we diagnose the problem, then we come up with a proposed solution. We build the minimum viable product, we seek feedback, we figure out how do we roll this out, and then of course, once we've rolled out the minimum viable product, how do we get feedback to improve? And again, you will have some clients that will line up just to test your new toys. Again, I'm a big fan of teaching and training and education and entertainment. So if you can roll out some nice little soft products like an ebook or a PDF or a video series, people will pay for it. And people will enjoy being part of the process. And if they help you co-create something by giving you feedback, they're also more likely to share it with their friends and family. Now, there are a lot of examples where I've seen people, and the biggest examples, if you look at Apple, they went from competing toe to toe with the personal computer space, and then they got into the music space. They revolutionized the music space. They brought in membership, recurring fees. They've gone into books. They've gone into podcasts. They've gone into all kinds of things. And basically, Apple is one of the most cash-rich companies on the planet because literally they don't have other places to invest their cash. Think about that for a minute. They have cash. They have people managing their cash. They've got so much of it, they don't know where to put it. So here's the thing. A good development and launch is always first and foremost, you want to get feedback. You want to get people to tell you what they want. and then you test and measure, you create prototypes, getting feedback along the way. And really, truly, if you take nothing else away from today, I would strongly recommend looking at whatever your product or service currently is and finding ways you can help make people make their lives better by educating them. So, for example, if you're a bookkeeper, give them a checklist of the things they need to do before they work with you. If you're an accountant, here's a checklist of things you need to bring me at tax time. If you're a lawyer, here's 10 questions I'm going to ask you, so please think about these. Think about what you could do to educate somebody so that when they come to you, they're ready. If you're, again, I love talking about the dog industry, but if you're a dog groomer, you can give people 10 tips on how to raise a healthier dog. Here's some diet, here's some nutrition, here's some maintenance, things like that. So think about the problems your client has and how can you first and foremost solve that with new knowledge. Because really, truly, and sometimes helping them understand their problem is the new knowledge. So, for example, we create diagnostics for all of our courses and programs. We help people understand where they're stuck. And once people know where they're stuck, then they can come to us and say, Jeff, I know I'm stuck. Here's where I'm stuck. Would you be willing to help me? And then I can make that decision. Now, again, if you're bringing in people to develop new products, and I have worked with people who created brand new products in brand new categories, always ask for experience in your sector. If you're a software company and you're hiring somebody to develop software, you don't want to know that their only experience is in manufacturing cars on an assembly line or making dolls in China. You want to know that they understand your industry, your company, and what you're hoping to do. You also want to ask how they do market validation for new products. Again, with small digital products, it's less concerning. You're not investing millions, you're investing maybe a few $100s at most. But you do want to know that what you've invested is returned. Again, my rule of thumb, $1 spent should yield a $10 return. You want them to be able to share examples of successful product launches they've managed. Again, if they don't have examples, it doesn't mean you can't hire them. Just they should expect to be paid less. You should expect to pay them less, because usually you pay experts for experience. Just going to point that out. Now, it's important to understand typical timelines and budgets for projects like what you're undertaking. When I create an educational course, for example, this one, I have a very clear timeline. I know when I'm going to do the research, I know when I'm going to develop the content, I know where we're going to create the slide decks, what the templates look like. Anybody who's guiding you should have a real clear picture of a timeline and a budget. And I'll just remind you, we talked about the perfect prospect persona at the beginning. The better you know your best clients, your perfect prospects, the better you can develop new products that meet their needs. And then, of course, we want feedback and product iteration. We don't want to say one and done. We want to evolve and fix post-launch. So that's my advice and my questions on how to find experts to help you develop new products. Now, I'm going to share what we use, and this is a detailed topic for another presentation, but basically we use something called a bulletproof business blueprint. And what we do is we look at the 9 categories, our 3 core areas, the inbound, outbound, and manage, and the 9 core categories. And based on each of those areas, based on your criteria, your expectations, we create a blueprint. And basically the whole plan is we're going to fix this first, this next, build that third. But basically you want to prioritize based on your exact specific needs of your business. So as a reminder, I said we almost always start with increasing inbound cash flow, then we get to managing the outbound cash, and then we get into the manage section. The reality is sometimes maybe you've already got enough clients, maybe you've got enough leads, enough business development, and maybe you've got all the products you're ready for, and maybe you're bleeding cash because you're spending too much. Um, I can't tell you that up front, but what we do with our Bulletproof Business Blueprint is we walk through the pros and cons of each area, the symptoms. We help you get really, really clear on where your business needs help first, and we point you to that specific resource. I'm not going to tell you if you've got $10 million a year in revenue, I'm not going to tell you, well, sorry, our plan says we started increasing inbound cash through revenue development or raising capital. Come back when you're ready to start at the beginning. Reality is, if you're doing $10 million a year in sales already, you're probably looking at optimizing processes, creating some systems, adding new products or services to your existing clients, and definitely there's some bloat in your expenses. Most companies I've seen, when they sit down and they sharpen their pencil, usually you can cut your costs by about 10-20% without really impacting quality or service. So again, don't do that as a blanket, don't do that without help. But in the Bulletproof Business Blueprint, we help you figure out exactly what you want to work on next. And what we do is we create 100-day action plans based on the Bulletproof Business Blueprint, so that in the next 100 days, you know exactly what your milestones are, you know what you're hoping to accomplish, and you focus on achieving your number one biggest impact lever in your business. And once we've solved that, then we look at the next lever and so on. Now, in our live sessions, this is where we usually leave time for question and answer. I want to be mindful of the time. I don't want you to sit here and stare at this, so I'm not going to stay here. But below, if you want to comment, you can ask your questions. One of the things we do, we have a private group where we do share questions and answers. People can come in for support. We don't want anybody to be left behind. We don't want anybody to not know what to do. So we welcome questions and answers. We welcome questions and we love to provide answers. Now, to be clear, most of the time we're not going to give you the exact detailed step-by-step, here's how you do that thing. What we're hoping to do is give you guidance on what the next thing should be. And once you understand what you're working on, maybe you have questions. Again, we do this as a paid program where we do step-by-step walk with our clients to help them implement these things. But we do love to give people a little bit of guidance. You know, we create frequently asked question documents, things like that. So we welcome your questions and we'll answer as we can. Now, before we wrap up, I just will be extending an invitation to you to join our Cash Flow Club, and I'll share that in a second. But before we do, I want you to think about why you might consider joining Cash Flow Club. And the reality is, this is not meant to push you. It's not meant to manipulate you into joining. It's just, if you're really ready to join, we'll welcome you with open arms. If you're not ready to join, that's okay. So one of the questions we like to ask is, why might you consider joining Cash Flow Club? And then the next question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means not ready at all and 10 means fully ready, how prepared to you are engaged with our community of forward-thinking entrepreneurs who are also scaling their businesses in Cash Flow Club? And really just curious, depending on the number, obviously if you picked a 1, maybe you're not a fit for this, and that's okay. But if you didn't pick 1, we always ask, why didn't you pick a lower number? And then we ask, imagine you've joined the Cash Flow Club. What positive changes do you see in your business and personal growth? Again, this is for you to self-reflect and think about whether you want to learn more about Cash Flow Club. And then we ask, why are these changes important to you? And again, if they're not, then Cash Flow Club's not a fit for you. If they are important, let's chat. And then the very last self-reflection question I like to offer is, what's the next step, if any, that you feel moved to take towards joining? And again, if the answer is none, that's great. Usually at this point, and I'll share details, people either want to attend one of our master classes where we teach all the theory you need. We do a very, very deep dive on all the things I covered today, or we have workshops where you take the theory we've taught in our master class and you apply it. Some people want to jump straight into our mastermind program. That is invitation only, but if you're interested, let's have a chat. So at the very beginning, I promised that there would be an invitation. And obviously, I would be delighted if you wanted to join Cash Flow Club. We have a mastermind program. We meet once a week for an hour on virtual video conferencing. And basically, we share the theory beforehand. And the meetings are all about accountability and helping you get progress and build momentum. And if that suits you and you think that's an environment where you're open to collaborating with others, let's have a chat about it. We can tell you, I like to tell people up front that the investment for our Cash Flow Club Mastermind, it starts at $1,000 a month and goes up depending on the levels and the complexity. But really, truly, the idea is we're going to give you practical steps, proven strategies so that you move your business forward. And really, the reason we share the price tag up front is if it's not in your budget, we don't want you to be embarrassed. We don't want to dangle something you can't afford, and we don't want any hard feelings. So if you think it's a fit, happy to have a next conversation and we can talk about what it looks like. But most of the time, what we recommend is you take the next course in our series, which is our masterclass on the Bulletproof Business Blueprint. And what we do in there is we teach you exactly how to identify which of the 9 areas you need to focus on next and create a 100-day plan for growth. And we give you a bunch of strategies, we give you examples. Usually we run this, depending on the time of year, we either do it as a 60-minute or a 100-minute. Details will be below. Obviously, the price depends on how long it is. But the goal is we also record it. We give you access to that. We give you templates and checklists so that you can take it away and actually start implementing on the Bulletproof Business Blueprint on your own. So like I said, there's a button below that'll give you all the details you could possibly want. And we hope to see you in either our Cash Flow Club or in our next course, the Masterclass. Now, we always love feedback, so feel free to share in the comments below. You can message us, tell us what you thought. Did we deliver what we promised? I really, truly hope that we gave you some clarity on options. We gave you some insights and ideas, and we love feedback because it's how we grow and how we improve. And I just want to thank all of you who stuck around. If you stuck around to the end, well done. We appreciate you hanging out, watching our content, engaging, sharing your feedback. And really, truly, I encourage all of you, if this was of any use to you, if it gave you some new ideas, if it made you think differently, join our next course, which is a master class on how we're going to have separate ones where we're going to do a deep dive on each of these 3 core topics we talked about today, which was bringing in raising capital, acquiring new clients, and innovating and creating new products. So thank you, and I wish you all the success in your business.